on top today, very much helped by your 2 goals.
Look, it's a great win. I don't mind who scores them, but it's just to be good to be back to an All-Ireland final, I suppose. And look, we've no medals yet, so hope for the best.
Must be hugely satisfying to you, though, to put in that performance here on the big stage.
Yeah, but like you look around the field and you know the forwards are nothing without the work rate of everyone else out the field.
It's hard to plan a potential homecoming, but yeah, it's going to be interesting again. You know, at the border at home, we're neighbours with Ballingarry, so that should be very interesting over the next couple of weeks. And definitely should look. It's a throwback to 2009 forward, so it's going to be a brilliant build-up again. As a Kilkenny person, I'd be nervous about the neighbours now. You know, they're after creeping up all year.
As a person working in Curtis, by the way.
Yeah, so look, it creates a great old buzz coming into it. But you'd have to say today, when you sit down and analyse the match today, Tip seemed to want it more. That was, you know, we looked at the scores and we look at everything that went on that day, and we all thought it was going to be very, very close. But to be fair to Tipperary, they were very intense from the word go. They got their matchups right. The big thing for me though with Tipperary was they hunted down Cork players all day long. They dispossessed them. They didn't give them a minute on the ball, and that was ultimately the difference. I mean, we do talk about the systems and all sorts of things like that, and they are relevant and stats, but I would love to see the stats today in relation to Tipperary. They just cleaned out Cork in everything that went on the ground, and to win that dirty ball that we talk about, they wanted that ball that bit more than Cork today, and you'd just be very disappointed. As a Cork person, you'd have to say there's a lot of very dour cars going south this evening.
We'll have to put up those stats again for you, Eddie, give you another look at them. We talked before the match, Cyril, about this was so hard to call. Whichever way you saw it, maybe Cork might win, maybe Tip might win. I have to say, I couldn't see that.
Fantastic move, fantastic move at half-time.
Which is basically what it was.
Yeah, but the move at half-time won the game. Noel McGrath went centre forward, Bonner in corner, caused terrible trouble. I saw McGrath training. I went up to see the Tip senior team playing Galway 21s, now the second Tip team, where I slipped across to see the senior team playing. That 6 against 6. Noel McGrath was brought centre forward, pin and ball. Second half went out centre forward. The Tip team got 2-17 from play. But that's unbelievable against the Cork team that was in All-Ireland last year. Like, Tip were flowing, we questioned some of their backs. Like, you know, Barry was brilliant full back. All of a sudden, they're in full flow. Like, and you get 2-17 from play. They were all scoring. No, Maher didn't score, but he was fouled. He made so many scores. Noel McGrath eventually came into it. From all over, like, they got 6 points from midfield from play. So, like, they're in a strong position tonight. As Eddie says, like, they love playing Kilkenny. You know, and Brian Cody was there, like, he'd be smiling away. It's going to be there'll be 80,000 this time, not 70, like, and I'm looking forward to it already. But Tip are in a good position, they're on a roll, and you'd have to question, like, Cork being kind of, say, idle for the few weeks, like, they looked nervous.
Yes.
In the first half, there were a lot of wides, shots that should be going over the bar, but when Tip got into flow, like, Tip were only up 2 points at half-time after being completely on top. Second half, they got into flow, and they're lovely to watch. OK, it's a sad day for Cork, they'll have to take it in the chin, but, like, Tip are coming, they're a gathering force, like, and you know, it's going to be some final.
But you'd say that Cork got their game plan a bit wrong today. They seem to be very narrow. In the Munster final, they had 6 forwards playing in 6 positions. Today, they seem to keep it very narrow, and I think that suits defences. They never opened up at all. They never put any balls spraying into the corner like they did in the Munster final. They weren't allowed.
Having said all that,
yes.
Not alone is it a triumph for Tipperary, it's a triumph for Eamon O'Shea. You know, so many people question him down throughout the year. But at the start of the game today, you wouldn't have dreamt that those backs could cope with that. Would only concede 1-11 in the whole game to what we thought was a very good Cork forward line. But from the goalkeeper, whose puck-outs were excellent, whose blocking was excellent towards the end, on through the defence. Now, Pádraig Maher will get all the plaudits, but every one of those defenders dominated their men. Who would have thought that the 2 midfielders, Shane McGrath and Woodlock, would clean out the Cork midfield, who had dominated everybody else they'd made up to today, and not alone dominate them, but score 6 points.
Yeah.
But the movement, the support play of their forwards is exceptional. By any standard, it is exceptional and very hard to counteract. Now, at the end, you'll be saying Cork were very poor. But that movement wears down a defence. That constant movement, trying to catch up with them, trying to close them down, it wears them down. And they use the ball so intelligently, as Cyril they said, especially in the second half. He has turned these into a very, very serious force. And the final thing I say is, they might have new tactics, but what will please Tipperary supporters most of all tonight is the old mentality. the mentality of old is back. That defiance, that steel that was missing for the last few years.
Not a direct ball in the first half.
But it's the mentality. It's that steel, that air of defiance they have, that we are not going to give in to our men. That, you know, that we'll attack everything. That old defiance of Tip that had in the past, that is back. And that's what makes them really dangerous when combined with that exceptional level of skill.
Joe will take absolutely nothing away from Tip. Just on the point, because Cyril alluded to it, the layoff, and this is a problem in the championship, both in hurling and indeed in football. One team playing matches, the other team sitting waiting to play. Had that any significance?
But Michael,
in it?
a big thing had this. The boys talking about the tactics. In the first half, Cork played
his full squad, and he was trying players out as well, and eventually people forgot, I think, that we beat Clare, who were the All-Ireland champions. Then Tip got to a league final and were just about nudged out by Kilkenny in the finish, so we brought that little bit with us coming into the Munster Championship. Then Limerick, it was just decision making, I think, more than anything else against Limerick, really caught Tipperary, but then the momentum started in Thurles of a Saturday evening when they scored 2-10 in the last 15 minutes, and from there the whole thing just took off. Supporters were tentatively kind of believing that we're onto something here. I was with him above in Portlaoise when we beat Offaly, and then suddenly the Dublin game arrived and Tipperary dominated that game. After the game, obviously everybody said, look, Dublin weren't this, they weren't that, but today you saw again Tipperary dealt with Cork like they dealt with Dublin and made Cork look average in the finish.
And Seamus Hickey, your view of the Tip performance today, where does it compare to the performance against Limerick?
Well, I don't think there was a whole pile of difference between you know, Limerick, I suppose we were arguably lucky at the end of the game, and I suppose we took our chance as well. We were composed. But, you know, perspective has to be put on this Tipperary team. Their last, I suppose, their 3 championship games, we'll say, between last year and this year. Very, very close encounters against, you know, arguably good teams. Munster champions last year, Kilkenny, and then, you know, Limerick again this year, you know. A lot of perspective was lost on, we'll say, the performance that they were giving. I think today was a response. An alien position for them to be in when nationally, you know, going into a game as underdogs in an All-Ireland semi-final, very alien place. And I thought today was just a response to that, a real statement.
And Donald, what about Cork? I mean, they had massive support. It was huge. It must be 40,000 Cork supporters there. But you said to me an interesting thing coming out, that you thought it was like men against boys at times, physically.
Yeah, Des, look, there was 40,000 people plus that were from Cork that were in the stadium today. And I was leaving the stadium and a man came up to me and he said it was men against boys, and it was pretty hard to argue against that. Like, tactically we were out with it, physically we were dominated in almost all of the exchanges, and skill-wise Tipperary blew us off the park.
Yeah. And yet at half-time there's only a couple of points in it. I mean, and we were chatting, you said, you know, nobody's going to win this by a big margin. The second half was a huge change.
Yeah, it was a huge change, especially in the third quarter has such a big impact on the result of the games. And Tipperary came out in the second half and they totally blew Cork away. Like, you could have argued at half time that Cork were in an okay position. They hadn't played great. They had missed a lot of points, even frees that, you know, another day they would have scored, and yet they were only a couple of points down.
Shane, one issue that will come up obviously is it a disadvantage to win Munster? Cork had the 5-week wait. You were Munster champions last year. What's your view on that?
I suppose you have to look at it now and see if it's coincidence whether 2 years in a row the Munster champions haven't performed. Last year we found the wait not particularly long. I said this year that it might have suited Cork with the involvement of their footballers, especially in the football championship, and I suppose it kind of benefited them that, when the footballers went out, they had their footballers in hurling training for an extended period of time going into the game. It's a tough one. Kilkenny had the same break before the semi-final last week, and they didn't seem to show as many ill effects of it. But I would be of the opinion that it's too long a break.
All right. OK, then, we'll be analysing the game in detail and bring you a reaction from both camps after the break. But right now, on the analysis of the game now, there are 2 goalkeepers on the panel, and puckouts is the first thing that came up. But Don Logue, you thought the Tipperary puckouts were fantastic today.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought like that Darren Leeson gave the greatest exhibition of tactical puckouts ever seen in the game.
Ever?
Ever, absolutely. And, like, you know, especially in the first half when the tone was being set for the game, and time after time it led to resulting scores or Tipperary winning frees. And the thing I'd remind you is here, he's facing a lot of 6-foot-plus bodies when he's looking out there. It's easier when you're looking down on the camera at this angle. You think that there's actually bigger spaces there. But if you look at this, you'd have to say also Cork's defending the puckouts was really poor. Look at this situation here. You've got one Cork defender with his back turned. You've got another Cork defender strolling. The other players should have their, at the very least, should have their hurleys in the air. And Darren doesn't choose to pick out his man here in the middle of the field, but he could have done it. The benchmark is this. I showed this about 2 years ago. Look at Henry Shefflin. This is early days in an All-Ireland final. This man is after winning. He's after winning 8 or 9 All-Ireland medals. Brendan will tell you, when you're looking out and you're deciding on whether you're going to take the risk of hitting a targeted puck out, if these are the options that Brendan will be looking at, or any goalkeeper, or maybe striking it to the middle of the field. But if you've got your defending attacker moving around, he's almost saying, right, I dare you to go. Go on if you go, but I might be going into that space. That's the benchmark. Like the rules are, you raise your hurley, you make it harder for the keeper to see what's happening outside the field, but you don't stand static, because a lot of keepers will actually use that static point as a marker for themselves. And whilst, and I want to put it on record, it was the greatest display of puckouts ever. The Cork defending for it was poor.
Who was the best at puckouts before this? Who?
Be modest, I know.
It was Brendan.
That is the key thing with Kilkenny, though. I mean, having played against them, they tempt you. They're saying, go on, go short, and then boom. We saw it against Offaly earlier on this year in Nolan Park. You know, they gave a ball to the centre back or the sweeper. Next thing, there's 3 around him. But the key thing is for Kilkenny, when they do that, they don't let the defender get his head up. Because obviously when you're committing bodies, there's a spare man somewhere. But Kilkenny have it down to an art. But Darren Gleeson today was just amazing the way he was pucking out the ball. It was fantastic. And really set Tipperary up for a first half that let him get a foothold in the game.
Like they won 70% of the puckouts. It's like, that's huge.
Quite naive from Cork. I couldn't believe that it was if 2 successful puckouts happened from Gleeson, how you're not reassessing your situation. I don't understand it. Short puckouts are killer, especially from I suppose a confidence point of view. If you're conceding easy puckouts, you're setting yourself up for a big fall. And you know, I could argue there was 5, 6, 7 puckouts there in the first half that really, you know, they went to a man that wasn't anywhere near a Cork jersey. And you know, Cork have to look at that themselves.
Right. And what about the Cork puckouts in contrast then, Brendan? Yeah,
Cork just seemed to go with the long ball. You could see Tip had a bit of a method to what they were trying to do and create space in the back line. Everyone was an option. But when Anthony Nash looked out the field today, most of the time he had was to only go long, which really went into Tipperary's barrow. You see it here. I mean, this was just the pattern of the game throughout most of it. You could throw a blanket over a lot of the Cork forwards. Now, a lot of these players want space to run into, but also there was nobody supporting the breaking ball on the puck out. Normally, it's the guy running onto the ball that really causes the damage under most puck outs. But in this example, Cork, the guy who was under the puck out is trying to win it himself. Suits the Tipperary backline, who are all coming out onto the ball. Again, you can see the swarm defence, and Tipperary then just had a launch pad from the edge of their D then to push up along the field. And that really set up the first half for Tipperary. Then when Cork did try to use the space, they kind of went into a bit of a sleep mode, I suppose I call it. Concentration was poor. Tipperary player reads the puck out an awful lot faster than the Cork player. You know, ball looks like, and you're all looking at Anthony Nash saying, oh, what are you doing hitting the ball out there? But in fact, it should have been read, you know, and it should have been dealt with an awful lot better. But then when it's done right and you isolate a forward out on the wing, and Conor Lehane comes in here under that breaking ball, in that space we highlighted earlier that nobody from Cork was filling, the thing works, quick hands, sweeps the ball over the bar. But you know, more than the goalie needs to puck it out right. When the ball lands and hits the deck, that's when you need your forwards around it. And Cork really didn't support or play as a team, I suppose, when the ball fell.
And that's a fierce important point. It's very easy to blame Anthony Nash in Cork tonight for striking the ball like that. But it's actually the outfield players that dictate a lot of where you hit the ball. And also, it must have been a tactical decision.
Yeah, absolutely. The modern game, clean catches are at a premium around the middle of the field. Breaking ball is the area that most teams actually analyse. Most teams will have stats for breaking ball around the middle of the field, and if you're not aggressive and hungry for those breaking balls, you know, you really are letting yourself down.
But we should credit the Tip defence, obviously, for how they countered that. Now, the other area where Tip were on top was midfield, Seamus.
Yeah, no, the performance of Shane McGrath and James Woodlock really has to be highlighted today. And it's even more relevant when you consider that before this game, it was a highlighted area of strength for Cork.
Yes.
Not many people actually gave Tipperary much credit for their midfield performances this year. So going into the game, Shane McGrath and James were under, I suppose, a lot of pressure. They utterly dominated all day long. They played really effectively between the 265s, supported their half-back line when they needed to, and then broke forward with confidence. You know, Shane McGrath really was so sure striking the ball all day, and you know, 6 points from play from a midfield partnership in any game is an impressive return. So, you know, I suppose with Noel McGrath out there as an extra body, as he likes to do, and that's kind of consistent approach from Tipperary. Aidan Kearney or Aidan Walsh, sorry, and Daniel Kearney really didn't know how to deal with it, and that meant that there was always one Tipperary man in too much space in the middle of the field.
It was frustrating for Aidan Walsh, Donlow. I mean, it's a tough summer for him, dual player. He got substituted today. So much expected of him every time he's out there.
Yeah, tough summer. Like, you know, incredible credit due to the man to take on the demands of two such demanding sports. But I think after today, like I've said a lot of times, and it doesn't give me any pleasure in saying it, but you can't be playing at the highest level in one sport whilst you're only giving maybe maximum 70% or 80% of your time to it.
Yeah. Brendan, you were a dual player, weren't you?
I played obviously the two. Still do a bit, but at a different time, I suppose. Now the way that the modern game has gone, it's gone so scientific. Every player has been watched by the opposition. Like, you know, it's very, very hard then to try to serve two masters. And while I just turned up one night for training, maybe a week before the match, that was acceptable going in. But I couldn't do it now, I think, with Tipperary footballers. You know, so I mean, the game is moving on, and players really, and we always highlight Kilkenny as being the benchmark where we all like to be. There's one game down there, and that's hurling, and you can see it in the way the style of play that they have.
And it's romantic. It's all nicer at the start of the year, and you know but it's when you get to the business end of the year, like, you know, it was maybe Cork people who have had some of their greatest layups were dual players, Jimmy Barry Murphy himself, Teddy McCarthy, people like this. But the reality is 50, 60 minutes gone today, there wasn't much laughing and joking about it. The romance was very much dead.
Out of curiosity, did you play football yourself?
I wasn't a bad footballer, actually.
He says humbly. All right, then, on a happy note, Tipperary fans, the goals for Tipperary were fantastic today, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. We knew coming into the game that the goals are going to be the difference now more than Seamus' game. And Seamus Callan, now Cork as well, throughout for the two goals really, they were set up quite well. Like Seamus runs onto the ball, you know, and Cork defence, they have enough guys back there at that stage. And Seamus' ball across the middle just goes over Bubbles the Wire's head. But then this is only 5 minutes into the game. We talk about desire and making a statement. Shane McGrath has no right to get to this ball. But Lachlan McLaughlin gets there, but Shane takes it off him, and then we talk about composure. This guy was a sub 2 matches ago, remember, got his opportunity at Dublin, and when Seamus Callan picks up on Shane O'Neill's mistake, he still has a huge amount to do. Mark Ellis will be disappointed that he was trying to track Shamey, he should be getting closer to him, but will you let Shamey Callan turn and get a swing at a hurley? But then, of course, we've Garrod Ryan, who holds up the ball, knowing that the cavalry in Bonnermare is going to arrive. But watch the run of Seamus Callan here. Cork are still set up all right. Shamey doesn't bother about the ball because he knows Bonner has it in his hand. And defenders are drawn into the ball. And, of course, Shamey pops up out of nowhere. And it's just a brilliant finish past Anthony Nash. But again, Seamus Callan's brain at work, and knowing as well that Bonnermare was going to win that possession. Cork defenders are always drawn to Bonner, and they were all day today. But Shamey knows like that Bonner will give the hand pass, and Seamus Callan finished perfectly.
And Bonner's pick-up for that was incredible. Like, you've got a lot of defenders around the place. They're not putting physical pressure on you. And for him to pick it up and to take those defenders with him, but also he didn't even look. He knew where Seamus Callan was gone. It was a perfect pass.
And not unlike Limerick last week, and we'll chat about that against Kilkenny, the importance of getting the goals. Cork obviously only got the one late on, but they did have other chances earlier.
Yeah, Cork had a couple of goal chances, Des, and the way the game was going, they were going to need it. You know, looking at this instance, there's a couple of lessons we learned for Tipperary defenders here. Again, it looked as if they were in a good position, but a bit like the Limerick defence last week, didn't track the runners as well as they should. Bill Cooper, the break falls to him. The reality is here, you need to be either drawing the man into you and have, you know, if you like, greater composure. I don't like saying it, but it was a poor attempt at a pass at that stage. And Paddy O'Sullivan here, if you like, this almost summed up Cork's days. No better guy that you'd want in that position. But the Tipperary defender just getting in and hooking him, and you saw, I think with about 60 minutes gone today, the Cork fans were streaming out through the turnstiles.
Yeah, but also, Donald, the way Darren Gleeson was playing today, I know I'd have to mention it, he's been in a little bit of stick throughout Tipperary, you know. Like, he was fantastic today, not only just on the puck outs, but Cork in short there had numerous chances to get goals and brought off saves, you know, and he seemed to grow into the game and get bigger and bigger, and Croke Park is the stage I think he was looking for. So I'm delighted for him today as well. He had a fantastic game, and while Cork had the goal chances, you know, he defied it.
Both teams would look like they were going for goals from the start of the game. I suppose for the first 20 minutes it was very repetitive actually. Route 1, they both had men on the edge of the square which they had tried to isolate. They put the ball in long. It didn't seem to have a return for either of them, but they were searching for goals early. Tip looked like, you know, they really were the more likely to get them.
You, Seamus, were taken with the Tip half back line again.
Yeah, no, I thought today that if they were going to come out on top, they really needed a dominant half back line performance, because it's in them. We say the likes of Brendan Maher. Pádraig now was placed out on his defensive 45, where I'd argue he's more comfortable. He's a superb centre back. Aerially, his prowess is fairly well known at this stage. It's well documented. But what I was very impressed with, I suppose, today was his presence, you know, sweeping in behind on the breaking ball, and his distribution. Distribution was key today. He has been accused previously of, you know, aimless ball and aimless distribution, and some of the tip backs have been guilty of it. But today, every single ball he caught, every single ball he distributed, found his man, and it set up so many Tipperary attacks. Brendan Maher then, you know, a superb leader. Captain of the team, you know, he swept around on breaks all day long, and again, you know, 2 fantastic catches, one in the first half, one in the second half. It was a launch pad that they needed. They badly needed the delivery into their forwards that they have, that, you know, the forwards are going to win the game if the backs are able to give them going.
And there was a marked change as well, I think, in the way Tip's style of play around the middle. They hit the ball with a purpose today. I mean, looking at previous matches, Tip were kind of going over and back across the field, and people were accusing them of being this tippy-tappy stuff. But they delivered the ball quickly today, and the half-forward line followed up, and you could see the half-back line. There was a plan and a method to the way they wanted to go about the business.
And maybe a confidence as well. We'll chat more about that. Well, they're the views of our panel. Let's hear what the 2 camps had to say afterwards.
Tipperary steamrolled the Munster champions with a massive scoreline from play of 2 goals and 17 points out of 218. The championship journey for Cork is over.
Just very, very disappointed. We didn't bring anywhere near like the quality of the game we'd like to bring to give Tipperary today, and very disappointed for the players and the supporters.
I think the hard work throughout the pitch was great, and I thought the backs were outstanding. You know, they decided they didn't want to concede anything. You know, there was talks of a shootout, but they were of mind this week not to let that happen, and I think they did. You know, and I think our forwards will probably be a little disappointed when we didn't get the fluidity that sometimes we bring to the game, and you know, that's something we really have to work at for the next day.
I don't want to take from Tipperary or anything like that, but our display was poor today, and too many of our players were comprehensively outplayed throughout the field. And I think when that happens, particularly when the Tipperary defence are coming out the ball and clearing it and able to find their forwards in space and use that space, then you're going to pay for it, and I think that's what happened to us today.
Here comes Shane McGrath, and the ball comes first. Callanan again, hops it on the ground, he tries to make an angle, he's having a shot. Oh my word! What a brilliant goal!
It's light for the midfield, you know, because these guys are not novices, you know, and they're late 20s, and you know, I thought it was a bit unfair during the week when there was no mention Tipperary midfield. These boys are class midfielders, and they've worked really hard, and I think they decided today they wanted to put on a performance. But I thought our backline, our goalie, and I thought up front, I thought Bonner Maher was outstanding. He had an injury, and we were wondering when to take him off, to be honest, but he kept showing for the ball, and like the man he is, so he epitomises, I think, the spirit that's in the team.
The focus all the time was the performance. We said we weren't going to play the scoreboard at any stage, just play the game, play every ball as best we could.
I thought we were lucky to be 2 points adrift only, because it could have been worse, and we felt we hadn't played well at all. So from that point of view, I was reasonably happy going in that we might produce a better display in the second half, but it didn't improve, and the second goal then really killed it off, I thought, and our heads dropped.
Seamus Callanan!
We were happy we didn't concede too much. I think it was 1-11 or that, and we knocked up a good score. I think we broke the 20-point mark, so you have a chance of winning the game anytime you do that. And no, but we've lots to work on. I think we had a number of wides, and we let them in for a soft goal towards the end.
We just have fallen short now as a management team. That's the reality we're facing. But I mean, we can't be everyone can't be a winner, and I think Tip's display today deserves great credit.
It's going to be a Tipperary Kilkenny All-Ireland hurling final.
We haven't been beaten too often, so the players know what it takes, and that's the most important thing. The players working through this themselves, and they know what they want, and the All-Ireland final is a different game, and there'll be a different edge to it, so we just have to wait and see what it brings, you know, but we're just delighted to be in it, you know.
Yeah, and 2 points emerged from that. Brendan, you were talking about that confidence. And you used the word swagger. Explain what you were talking about.
Yeah, look, it's a huge thing. I think skill is pretty much a given in the game we're talking about here. You know, it's work rate is sometimes the variable, but that confidence then gives you the belief to chase somebody down. And then when you get possession, decision making. And Tipperary, since the Galway game, have made decisions better and better as the championship has progressed. And today they didn't really put too many foot wrong, really. And that comes from the confidence. And also Eamon O'Shea at the start. When things are wrong within a group, and we've all had it, you look to your manager for leadership and guidance, and he trusts every one of those players. From when I was inside in the camp, you know, you don't have a bad word to say about anybody, and he's really a father figure inside in the group. You don't want to let him down, and you saw today the response to the Tipperary players, and they can say that Cork didn't perform there and didn't perform this. They weren't left, is the reality.
Yeah, looking at the match programme, nearly all of the Tipperary lads have an All-Ireland medal at some level. You know, they've won minors or whatever, and, you know, senior, some of them. Cork don't have that same level. Is that significant?
Yeah, I think it's significant. And like you say, it's, you know, when you even look at underage medals, there's serious structural problems exist within Cork. And, you know, you can talk about whatever you want, but the reality is that Cork haven't won an under-21 All-Ireland since 1998. They won 2 in a row, 1997, 1998. In fact, they didn't win an under-21 before that. It was 1988. They haven't won a minor All-Ireland since 2001. All of our colleges are after losing their strength. Where's the Northmont gone? Where's Coleman's gone? Where are all these squads? And to be fair to Jimmy and the management, you could say that they've been turning wine into water. Because whilst you've got the likes of...
You mean water into wine?
Sorry, water.
Yeah,
exactly. Water into wine. And like, because you look at all of the other, you know, teams that are there, they're all winning underage. And that matters. And it matters especially when you get to the business end of the year. And like, you know, if I was a club person down in Cork or one of the supporters that was leaving there today, like, I'd be asking, where are the coaching structures? They're the facts of the matter. Why haven't we won since then? We went down to Ennis a couple of weeks ago and, you know, a lot was made. We were actually embarrassed. Clare beat us in the 21 match, yeah. I can't remember how many points they beat us by.
Very good Clare team now, in fairness.
Yeah, but so has there been exceptional, and that's the propaganda that we put out in the Cork Evening Echo on a Monday night. But has every team since 1998 been an exceptional team? I doubt it. And, like, you know, even if you want to look further, Cork are investing €70 million in a stadium.
Centre of excellence and...
A centre of excellence. Well, it's not a centre of excellence. There's 2 fields there. How could that be a centre of excellence? That will be, if I was a club person, I'd be looking for a review of that. That's going to turn out a centre of mediocrity. And if I was, say, for example, some of the big clubs inside in the city, you know, be it the Bears, the Rockies, the Glen, Castlehaven had a bigger representation than most of those clubs had on the team today. What will that building do for the performance of young Cork players? I'd seriously question it. I actually think that it's a monument that's been built instead of a centre of excellence.
But surely it's progress, and it's a centre where everyone can come. And previously, I mean, where did the Cork teams train at the moment?
There's 2 fields there. And like, the Cork clubs have been sold to PUP because they've been sold under this guise of a centre of excellence. How is a centre of excellence only got 2 fields? And you'll have underage... You'll have underage coaches. You'll have underage coaches around Cork that are looking for to take their squad teams to fields. They have to ring up clubs looking for permission to do it. It's the coaching structures. I'll give you another example.
Every centre of excellence is 2 fields. It's what you then do with the 2 fields.
Absolutely not, Des. Absolutely not. You need, and I'll give you another example. Why is it that we've got only 5 games development officers in Cork? Dublin have probably over 50.
50, yeah.
If I was one of the clubs and I was going into the Cork County Board, I'd be asking that question. And why are we investing 70 million in a monument, like I said?
So invested in coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the key. But like we're talking about spending 70 million, we're delighted in Tip we got a hurling wall in Dr. Morris Park. Right, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like, I mean, you can train anywhere, you're right. The coaches and the structure is the important thing. We can find any field out the place to hit balls around the place, right? We're hoping we might get a 3G pitch and all that. That didn't work out. But, you know, you're right on the structure part. It's vital. Like,
Cork pride themselves on being excellent sports people, be it rugby, be it soccer, be it, you know, Roy Keane, Sonia, Rowan O'Gara, all of this. Like, two pitches as your centre of excellence. Who are we trying to cut?
All right. I'll argue with you later about it. You have to have 2 pitches in your centre of excellence somewhere. But I take your point about you need coaches.
You should have 20 pitches. Cork County Board should have 20 pitches. That's there for all. all the younger teams that are coming up.
You've no land down there. That must be the reason.
Well, we don't have any land anyway.
You've got a fair point there as well, though, from the point of view of University of Limerick facilities. They're being used an awful lot by a lot of inter-county teams. Now there's 5, I think, 3G pitches there between soccer and rugby and hurling and all, and other counties are moving over there to train on them. So there is a point.
When Germany performed so badly into 2,000 euros, they looked for a root and branch review of their coaching.
And they went to the underage, didn't they?
Exactly.
Absolutely. In Limerick and Waterford, even you can see the underage renaissance that they have at the moment. You know, Waterford and De La Salle and their minors.
Well, and the Limerick, and we'll chat about the Limerick renaissance with the minors in a few minutes. But we've got to name our man of the match for this afternoon. Donald, the nominees.
Yeah, so Des, the nominees are Seamus Callanan, who was outstanding today. What 2 brilliant goals. The power he got behind those shots. He got 2-3 from play, and actually, interestingly, got the only point from a free that Tipperary actually got. Pádraig Maher was back to his best. He was looking really fit today, and he actually was involved in more plays than any other player on the field. And then finally, John O'Dwyer, he got 5 points from play, but class forward.
Right. And Brendan, who gets the award?
Yeah, like John Logue said, those guys were fantastic. A tip midfield as well could have a shout for it. But in the finish, we went for Pádraig Maher. He gave an unbelievable display at wing back. We spoke earlier about those long puck outs. They still had to be caught. They had to be won. But the key thing with Pádraig today was there was no high balls up into the stand. He looked up. He was trying to find a colleague with the ball, which showed great maturity for Pádraig. He's really stepped out as a leader, I think, after today's game, and well deserved his man of the match.
All right then. Well, congratulations to Pádraig. Then let's hear what he had to say afterwards.
Pádraig, congratulations, you're back in an All-Ireland final. Must be particularly pleasing, I suppose, given that Tipperary's defence was often questioned earlier this year.
It's great to be back in the final. I suppose after the Limerick game we were thinking it's a long road back, but we were here before in this position, and we managed to grind our way back, and thankfully we're back in the final now, and it's great,
Very much on an upward curve, and great momentum now as you face into Kilkenny in the final.
We managed to get a few wins, but that's the way the backdoor system works. If you keep winning, you get a bit of momentum, but look, we've a big battle ahead of us in 3 weeks' time again. We have to do probably even better what we've done there today. So there's no good putting all the hard work in the last 2 weeks if we don't go and win the final now. So we put the head down for the next 2 weeks and try and get the win the next day.
Well, congratulations. You are the Centra RTE man of the match, and Barry O'Sullivan from Centra is here with your award.
Yeah, well done, well deserved. So, what a final we have to look forward to. No doubt the slagging has started already along the borders of Kilkenny and Tipperary. Between them, these sides have won the All-Ireland a remarkable 60 times. Kilkenny have won more, by the way.